Well, it's kind of a big day around here today. This is the day I get rid of the Mark VII, say goodbye to it, and say hello to the Mark IV. So you may be asking yourself, why, Mike, after all these years, decades actually, of selling Marks, would you go to a shorty, a Mark IV? Twofold answer there. Number one, I kind of reflected over this past year since the release of the Mark IV, and I really looked at the things I do for myself in here. Secondly, I've thought back over the last few months about all the people I've talked to over the years. The people that always want to do things for themselves, the people that understand they need to have X amount of equipment to do what they want to do or what they think they want to do. A lot of them, of course, have looked at the Shopsmith Marks for years and years and years. And I've always had many people say, it's a wonderful system, but I don't think I'm going to lathe turn. I already have a router table. I don't need all of that. Is there any way you can sell just this or that? Well, in the old days, no. That's changed. That's really one of the more important things about the Mark IV. It lets us have just the basic tools we need to build pretty much anything. I mean, how many tools do we actually need? And if I just look around my own shop space here, the biggest, I guess you say, most major, biggest project I've completed recently is these floor-to-ceiling cabinets. That was 99% table saw. I did make some picture frames to go on my, what I call my artist wall. Again, table saw, one that would miter nicely. Shopsmith certainly does that. But yeah, table saw. If I go back 38 years and look at a project that I did way back then, in fact, a project I made on the day my daughter was born, that cradle, that was table saw, band saw, horizontal boring machine. You see where I'm going here? We don't need as much as we think we need. And when you start freeing up space, it makes the woodworking a lot easier, a lot simpler, a lot more fun to do. Of course, I also understand that everybody's needs change over time. If they do, another wonderful thing about the Mark IV, it's a fully customizable system. You're not turning now, but 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road, you want to turn? Give me a call for under $270. I'll say everything you need to turn your Mark IV into a lathe also. Maybe you're finding yourself doing a lot of routing. Okay, for about $47, I'll say a router, chuck, and a guard, a dust port, and you can use any 1/4-inch shank or 1/2-inch shank router bit. See where I'm going? A customizable system that you can take advantage of if and when you need. This is a big one here. I would submit for your consideration. There are far more people out there that want a Shopsmith than those that can afford a Shopsmith Mark. There's no way around it. And a lot of people want to get into this thing, but it's a big nut when you're looking at buying a full-blown system like a Mark VII. And again, some of those pieces in the Mark VII you may never use. You got to look at that. The investment is far, far less on a Mark IV than with a Mark V or a Mark VII. That's why I'm saying anybody can get into this now. And really that's my impetus behind this also. Is certainly a Shopsmith. We want to create more wood workers using the Shopsmith systems. This can do that. So there's a quick overview of why I'm going to the Mark IV. Now Shopsmith did offer to send me a brand new Mark IV, but that kind of defeats one of my main reasons for doing this, space. I can't have 2 machines laying around here. So I just asked them to send me the components that make up a Mark IV, and I'd convert my current machine into that. And I'm going to show you how that's done right now. So this is what Shopsmith sent out to me. 2 very long cardboard tubes. I'm assuming one for the bench tubes, one for the weight tubes. And there we have them. Got 2 new weight tubes and 2 new bench tubes, support tubes. Of course, the bench tubes are the longer ones. Weight tubes are your shorter ones. There's the difference in your tubes. You got the shorty tubes right there, those 4. And there's the original Mark V or Mark VII tubes. Quite a difference. Something else that most people don't know about, I did, but have never really talked about it, is on your bench tubes, they have now, Shopsmith now, reinforces the ends with a collar. Goes down at least that far. That's for added strength. That's the part of these tubes that take the most force. You're lifting the machine up, let's say with your casters, dropping it down, pound, pound, pound. They really took some time, made these nice sleeves that go in there. That's true of not just the Mark IV tubes, but all Mark VIIs and Marks now built. Nice feature. I got to take all the pieces and parts off the accessory shelf, get them out of the way. Got to remove the accessory shelf. I got a lift assist on this. I got to pull that off too. So we'll do that now. So we got the accessory shelf and all those pieces out of the way. So the next thing to do is remove the casting cap and go ahead and pull the headstock. Take the table off then, pull the spacer and the carriage. Now, with both ends unlocked, the entire upper part of the Mark V, Mark VII in this case, can be removed. That leaves our base. Since all the weight's off of it, simple matter of rolling it right over up on top of the castings. That'll allow us to get to the brackets, and that's what we're going to loosen. Need a 9/16 socket or wrench, and we're just going to simply loosen these these 9/16 bolts. Breaking those bolts loose at the beginning is pretty tough because those are actually torqued at the factory. I can't remember what pounds. But once they're loose, the tubes pull right apart from the castings and leg panels, and you're pretty much done. Now we go over to the weight tube castings. Loosen the 2 set screws on each end. And we'll pull these apart. Right up front here, let me make this real clear. The Mark IV tilts only one direction in the drill press mode, although you can add the double tilt anytime you want. So reassembly starts with putting those new base tubes into the castings. The important part here is you got to get them in the right way. It'll only go so far, but there's an actual stop built into that casting. Make sure those are pushed up against those stops. Once you got those clamps bolted down, we'll simply roll the machine back up on the base. Now we're ready to do the weight tubes. These, of course, are a little bit simpler. They just simply slide into the casting. You break out an Allen wrench, and we snug them down. So assuming you've assembled the base correctly, and when I say correctly, what I mean by that is each one of the end of these base tubes is seated up against that stop. Because if they're not, even one of them off a little bit, this whole machine's twisted. You're going to have all kinds of problems. But if you've done that correctly, the upper part of the machine, castings, should drop right into place. And when you raise it up, it should be effortless. Finishing the assembly is pretty basic. Get your carriage back on with the spacer, slide your headstock back on, put the cap back on, that end casting, tighten her down. So the first thing you're going to notice, first thing I noticed, is this thing certainly has a much, much smaller footprint. I'm liking that a lot. It's way more space saving. Also, because of the smaller footprint, the maneuverability of this thing, way easier. It's got a real unique look about it, different than our old Marks. I did, by the way, test it out on its very first project. I redesigned the accessory shelf. What I actually did, I simply took the standard accessory shelf that goes onto a Mark V or a Mark VII, cut it down to fit the Mark IV, and to be honest with you, this is a better setup for the pieces of parts that I'll be using and showing and selling on the Mark IV than the old original one. First project on a Mark IV completed. Well, there you have it, my new Mark IV. I'm going to take the next couple, 2 or 3 weeks and actually redesign or reinvent a demonstration specifically for the Mark IV. That could be a difficult challenge since I've been doing the same demonstration for so long, but it's going to require its own. I'm going to need to dry run, learn how to set the machine up, same as we do with the Mark V's and the Mark VIIs. If you're not familiar with what dry running is, go to today's Shopsmith Season 2, Episode 1, and I'll walk you through what dry running is. How to physically hold certain pieces to make a setup of your tools and the different functions way simpler, way easier. In the meantime, I'll leave you with this.